Here we are revolutionizing news with your non-party affiliated host. That's me. I am Nick, and an open platform of discussion. Help us grow by smashing that thumbs up button right now. Join the movement, hit the subscribe button, and if you want to participate, put your answers to the topic questions in the comments below. Now let's hear from our guests. Our first topic, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has just released its phase 3 clinical trial data, and it is going to be reviewed for approval by the FDA on February 26th. Pfizer just announced that they are 2 months ahead of schedule on the vaccine production and should have all 200 million doses done by the end of May. So AstraZeneca, they seem to be on the cusp of also finishing with their trials, and they seem very optimistic about a very large vaccine delivery, David, coming this summer. We will, according to all of their schedules, have enough vaccines for every American by the end of June. Despite this, many surveys now show widespread resistance to taking the vaccine. If we cannot reach herd immunity through voluntary means, should the COVID vaccine be mandated, David?
That has to be on the table. This obviously is a massive public health issue. Within a couple weeks, we're going to be, definitely in less than 2 weeks, we're going to be over 500,000 people dead in America from COVID-19. Now, obviously, I think it's a symptom of much bigger problems we have in our country, that we have people resisting vaccines. And this goes to the same misinformation that has, that attacked the election results, and that has people storming, committing insurrection, thinking that they're doing the right thing. And so as a country, we definitely need to find a way to rededicate ourselves to, facts and truth around public health issues. And this should stay on the table, but really, hopefully, what's going to happen is as more and more people are vaccinated and get to, 3, 4, 6, 9 months after being vaccinated with no ill effects, the kind of panic around this is going to wear off. And as people become more aware of the technology behind these mRNA vaccines and start to understand that the speed with which they were brought to market and mass produced is not indicative of any sort of suspect nature, the fact that they were rushed through without proper scientific rigor, hopefully, once again, people will come around. But
so
it does point to
you're in California, David, and I'm here in Florida, so I would say I have like a boots on the ground view of Florida, and it seems that a lot of people are very receptive to the vaccine. There are we do have a very large elderly population here. In California, do you see people being receptive of the vaccine regardless of these surveys?
Absolutely. People in California are receptive. We are still, though, because of the size of our population and the difficulty with vaccinating everybody, we're still working through all the different populations. Here in Los Angeles, we're just getting done with all of our healthcare workers and are moving on to, I believe it's 75 and older at this point. So really what we're going to see is at this point, there's obviously more than enough people who want it than we have vaccine. The real, as the ability to vaccinate people increases, as the speed at which we can vaccinate them increases, we're going to start seeing really how many people are unwilling to get it. Once we finally see people, really turning it away, and if suddenly we're accelerating past certain populations and getting to people who, like myself, who want it, but I'm at the back of the line. So
okay,
hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody keeps taking the vaccine and we can at least reach herd immunity without any sort of mandates.
Back to the question, Kyle, we're looking at multiple studies now coming out saying that about 2/3 of Americans are resistant to the vaccine. If we cannot achieve herd immunity, back to the question, should the COVID vaccine be mandated?
No. First of all, people can decide for themselves, what they want to inject in their body. But, aside from that point, I'm not convinced that this vaccine is going to be the end all be all. We don't have the data in yet. I'm no Luddite. I think the mRNA stuff looks good. I think people should voluntarily figure that out for themselves and be convinced. Let's persuade these people, these 2/3 of American, that this is a good deal. We run in this is dangerous, and the reason why it's dangerous is right now we have conditions where Pfizer might be bailed out by taxpayers for damages dealt, and the free enterprise system is a profit and loss system. You want people to who suggest, hey, let's take this vaccine. We think it's safe. We've done the research. All that might be true, but we want them to pay when damages are done. We want the companies doing the damage to pay for them because it's a profit and loss system, and that will correct bad behavior. So if they're losing a lot of money, Pfizer's going to put a natural stop force and say, hey, we can't lose any more money. We can't do the damage to these people. Let's pull it back. Let's do better research. Let's do what we got to do to get this thing more, where people have higher confidence. So you definitely want government out. You don't want government doing anything as far as forcing a vaccine on people or anything ridiculous. Because again, you set a precedent. When you say, hey, it's okay for the government to force people to do stuff, well, that's just a low bar. So you might agree with it then, but there'll be a notch up and eventually there'll be something you don't agree with that they decide, hey, if one vaccine is good, maybe more is good. And same with masks. One mask is good, 2 masks is good, 3 masks is good. The next thing you know, we'll all be in bubble suits. And that could be actually bubble suits might make a lot of sense. But if this was airborne Ebola, I'd be looking at you people with masks on going, are you crazy? Get in your bubble suit. Ebola is like 80% death rate. So,
sure.
Individuals can navigate those trade-offs and the cost benefit of doing certain things much better than a central planner.
And I definitely want to hear your response to David, but for the process of time, I want to get Rocco, and then we'll go around and let you guys respond for the viewers' sake. So Rocco, getting back to the main question itself, right now we're looking at a lot of surveys and about 2/3 of Americans who are resistant to getting the vaccine. Should it be mandated, especially from what David brought up with the mounting deaths at this point?
Well, I think the first thing that you mentioned in your question is a very important aspect of the question, that between Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and actually also Novavax, who's supposed to be approved around April, we're supposed to have around 610 million vaccine doses by June 31st, with 100 million of them supposed to be single-shot doses, which means that you only need one for full immunity, which means that you have vaccine supply, if that all works out, for 355 million people between the 205 million people who will take the 2-shot regimens of everything but the Johnson & Johnson and the 100 million Johnson & Johnson shots. And, there's only 260 million eligible people in America. There's not even a pediatric COVID vaccine available at this point, and there's not even one in development that I'm aware of. So with all of these companies looking to meet their deadlines, at this point, I don't see that there's even a moral argument for keeping people locked down over refusal to take a vaccine, and there's no moral argument for forcing people to take a vaccine. I mean, I've seen, Scott Gottlieb, for example, talk about 120 million Americans being all that wants the vaccine, but I've seen polling that's much different. A CNN poll on January 21st came out, said that 66% of people were looking to take the vaccine. Monmouth just did a poll, came out 5 days ago, that said that 59% of people were looking to take it, or 57%, were looking to take it right away. And then another 19% were looking to see how it goes with other people. And those numbers have gone up since the fall. They will continue to go up. And between natural infection and vaccination rates like that, I think we can be confident of herd immunity regardless of those who refuse. And many of them are honestly likely to have a large level of COVID antibodies anyway because they've already been infected. And just the last point that I'll make real quick here is that, if you look at the actual death counts, the CDC provisional death count by age right now places 342,324 of the 421,378 total people who have died with COVID. And that's another thing I'll get into. It's not from COVID, it's with COVID. But those are people in the 65 and over bracket, 81.24% of the deaths. And that gives you an idea of who's really at risk here. That's only 16.47% of the population. Once we get those folks vaccinated, there's really no reason for somebody like me to get a vaccine. And I don't plan to get a vaccine unless I'm forced, because COVID is not dangerous to me as a 28-year-old with no comorbidities, not obese, don't have any asthma, anything like that, there's no real reason to force me to get a vaccine for a disease that is likely to be so mild to me, especially in a world where everyone who's truly at risk has ample opportunity to get it.
The part that all of the viewers have been waiting for are responses. David, your response in roughly about a minute to Kyle and Rocco.
I think this highlights the problems that we have in America right now with the philosophies about the role of government. You basically have anarchists or like anti-government, propaganda, where people are saying that either the government shouldn't be doing this when this is exactly what the government should be doing, stopping mass death. That is why we have government. Okay. Or that it's completely selfish, where it's simply, I'm not going to get it because of me, when this is about doing something right for other people. Okay. If we had better attitudes in this country and less false information being passed around, but two, then better attitudes about what it actually means to live in a cooperative and civil society where we're actually trying to help each other out and create a better society, we probably would have never gotten here. People would have actually worn masks. People would have stayed home when they needed to. Kyle's sitting there and talking about how government shouldn't play a role. We had that. The Trump administration did nothing. What do we have now? We're heading like steaming train speed toward 500,000 dead. All right. And so we've already seen what Kyle and Rocco want. All right. That's exactly where we're at right now. Like, let's let the adults and the people who actually want to have a civil society handle it from here on out. Hopefully everybody gets vaccinated, and then we won't need to discuss whether or not a mandate is necessary, but the mandate would be necessary to protect the people who can't be vaccinated. All right. That even if you are not at risk, you're going to be interacting with people who may not be able to go get the vaccine.
The viewers are definitely looking for your response. Kyle, please respond to Rocco and David.
So, David, you with a year of lockdowns and mask mandates, you can't say the government didn't do it. They did stuff, and it hasn't helped. It might just be the case nothing anyone can do can stop a virus. That has been the case prior to COVID, to our response, to our over response to this viral respiratory infection. Sometimes no one can do anything. And if they can do something, they should be persuaded to do it, not forced to do it. The government is not here. First and foremost, the government cannot guarantee anybody's safety. That's not their role. Their role is to protect your freedom, so that you and I can discuss what we can do to protect ourselves, our families, our communities, and we can discuss, do masks work? Don't they work? And the market would take care of both sides of the equation. I don't get what the problem. Like, why are we? What's with this mask thing anyway? Costco was a great example. They thought their customers wanted masks, so guess what they did? They mandated it. This is before states and counties were mandating anything. And Florida's a great example. There's no mandate in Florida, as far as I know, but people wear masks anyway. Some people are convinced of the data one way. Some like myself are not. I have very valid reasons for not thinking masks are beneficial. It doesn't look like it when you flesh out the data. It doesn't look like there's any statistical benefit. And you can shake your head no, but the data is there. I welcome you to go over it.
Kyle, we're going to have to move on for the viewers. We need to get Rocco's response. Rocco, please respond to David, and Kyle, close us out with your last minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I basically agree with Kyle's moral arguments. So I think that what I mostly want to respond to is the notion that David put forward, that the government is what we should all buy into, and we should all work into this in a sort of communal response manner. But the fact of the matter is that the government has gotten this wrong at every single turn. Wrong on lockdowns, wrong on masks, wrong on every single aspect of their response. And even if you believe that masks work, which to be clear, they don't work. If they worked, then you would not have a massive spike in New York and California, as we have larger mask usage, according to the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, than we have had at any point in this country. These things do not work. When you look at the spread actually is regional in nature. Started going down in the Midwest, in places like North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, way back in November. Started going down in places like New York and the Southeast more toward January. And even if you believe that masks work, then you have to believe that Fauci killed tens of thousands of people at the beginning of this pandemic by saying masks didn't work. So why should we believe people who killed tens of thousands of people by intentionally lying to them by their own admission? This is a ridiculous standard to set. These people have lost their moral authority. They have not been following the science. Sweden proves that. South Dakota proves that. Florida proves that. And we need to take an approach that says that we will not bow to the tyranny of so-called expertise, especially when these experts have been wrong at every turn.
Thank you to our guests that have joined us today. Thank you to the viewer. If you like the conversation, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.